So as you guys are aware, we are covering the Daugherty case, and I've got some writings that have come directly from the family, from Mum. If you are not aware of this case, please check out the playlist and familiarise yourself with the case. Now, once I've gone through this series of readings, there is, I believe, 8 of them. I think we've got about 4 left, 4 after today. We will go over it together and we will see what we can picture. Like I've said before, my idea is to go through it, see what I can take from it. I will have a discussion back with the family member who I've spoken to, and if I need to, and if they're allowing me to, I will put a private investigator into this case. But for now, I'm going to read you it. Just remember, guys, there's a trigger warning. It's quite upsetting. Not quite as bad as yesterday's one, but it's a bad case and it needs to be seen, and we need to get some justice. Here we go. The ambulance pulled away and Maria was left in shock and distraught on the driveway. 2 officers were left at the house, a male and a female, and they were waiting for detectives to arrive to begin the death investigation. AJ and his mother, Jamie, began to console Maria, talk to the officers on scene, and help with the toddler. The distressed call from Ramona came in on Jamie's cell regarding the men's clothing and a potential intruder in the house. Jamie ran to tell the officers what Ramona had said, and they told her that they would take a look. They searched the house and did not find anyone inside. A few moments later, a detective arrived and asked to question Maria. Jamie sat beside Maria to supervise the questioning, and Maria began to detail what she saw. Almost immediately, it was very clear that the detective thought it was suicide. The detective asked if Sean had ever tried to harm himself, and Maria said that she didn't think so. He asked if she had ever seen any marks on his neck, and she told him he might have had a scratch a week before. But she thought it was from one of the younger boys who is autistic and often grabs necks. He asked if Sean had any problems at school, and she said that he had an issue with 3 girls at school who had been teasing him around Christmas. This was the incident about 4 months previously, but that was months ago, and the issue was resolved. He had friends and had been on a Disney cruise the week before and was high on happiness as a result. Sean had given no indication of depression, suicidal ideations. She could not recall anything out of the norm. She insisted several times that the position Sean was located would indicate that he had been harmed. It was unnatural and didn't look like a position one could put themselves in. He was hung and dangling near the ground, so much so that he could have stood up fully at any time. She described her account of events in as much detail as she could, but she was still in shock. She sat with AJ and sketched what she saw, but the investigators did not take her sketch. There's a pattern emerging here, isn't there? Jared arrived home to a swarm of marked and unmarked vehicles and people he didn't recognise. He parked and headed straight for Maria and hugged her and whispered in her ear, "I love you." With tears in her eyes, she told him that she loved him too. He handed his son off to Jamie and Ramona's boss and hugged his 2-year-old who had also been home. He thanked God that their toddler was okay. He approached Vija, Sean's grandmother, and told her that Sean was gone. You could see the hope drain from face as her arms fell to her sides and tears streamed down her cheeks. As she moved slowly forward, she grabbed the railing on the front steps to brace herself as she muffled, "My little Sean, my sweet Sean." Memories of holding him as a baby, his sweet smiles, and his contagious laughter flooded her thoughts as she stood in shock. One of the officers approached Jared and asked a few questions. Jared asked him what happened, and he said that he and another officer had arrived. He knew something was off, so they called the investigative team. He said, "This doesn't sit right with me. I don't think your son did this to himself." Jared agreed and said Sean would never have hurt himself. The house was locked down, and the remaining family members couldn't go inside. One neighbour, an older gentleman who lived alone, the one with the non-operational cameras, brought a folding lawn chair so that Visha could sit. He hugged Visha and told her he was sorry. An older gentleman came across the street, looked on, but would pretend to be busy if his gaze was met. It seemed like the entire neighbourhood was watching. The investigators went through and took pictures of the house. They took pictures of the back swing set and began to look around and document their surroundings. The family has not been given access to these pictures. A neighbour, Michelle, had stopped by with some pizzas and the kids ate on the front steps. The female officer asked for Jamie's name and phone number in case they needed an update on the kids. Jamie gave the officers her cell phone number. While loading up the car to transport the kids to another location, a female neighbour walked over and insisted on talking to Maria. She was really skittish, and Jamie kept telling her to leave. She seemed to be well-intentioned, but something was really off. She kept walking away and walking back, just trying to talk to Maria. She kept telling Maria everything was fine, she would be fine. Jamie asked her to stop approaching Maria, and she and Ramona's boss took Visha and the kids to the hotel on Langley, AFB. And they all sat and waited for Ramona and Jared to return, knowing that Sean was gone. So a lot of information in there and little clues that we're that will perhaps come back to later. But who was this neighbour, and why did she keep trying to approach Maria? Something doesn't sit right here, does it? And the more you look into this, there are elements that kind of make you go, hold on a second. There was neighbours, the fences around, they're all sort of only 3 foot high. Anybody could have seen over. Why would somebody have gone into the garden to stage this with the fences the way they were? So brazen, do you know what I mean? Could have been seen. There was someone in the garden next door, doing landscaping. There's a lot going on here. But for now, we're going to leave it here and we'll pick up tomorrow. Don't forget, tonight we are on live. We will touch on this, where we are up to now, and we'll be talking about the latest developments in the Kylie Rodney case, me speaking to law enforcement over there, and also the stuff that's coming out now. The information from Meghan and this camera footage, etc. And I'm also I think it's important to just go back through the timeline and just break this party down a little bit more. So there's some things that I've noticed recently that don't sit right with that either. Anyway, that's me done. Love you all, and I'll catch you all this evening.